What's up, people? Dead Wolf here with another one. This time, top 10 dark old cartoons guaranteed to give you nightmares, part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, go check out top 10. Shout out to Courage the Cowardly
From a
Dog.
cartoon that gave me a full existential crisis to one of the most gruesome shows I've ever seen, all the way to a creepy classic. On today's list, I will be covering 10 more dark old cartoons guaranteed to give you nightmares. Starting off this list under number 10 spot, we have The Mysterious Stranger. The Adventures of Mark Twain is a stop-motion claymation film that was made based around a few different Mark Twain works, but the one that I want to specifically talk about today is the part of The Mysterious Stranger. This movie was released in 1986 and it is seriously dark. It is basically just a social commentary that addresses Twain's views of organized religion, the moral sense, and basically just how the human race is damned. There is also a character of Satan that is truly one of the creepiest depictions I have ever seen. Claymation is obviously an incredible animation style, but there is something extremely eerie about it as well. So, the creepy claymation coupled with the underlying tone of this cartoon definitely makes for a cartoon I don't think I would have enjoyed as a child. This entire part of the film is basically just an existential crisis all rolled up into a weird little cartoon. In our number 9 spot today, we have Frothy Dog. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. Frothy Dog was a part of the Cartoon Network's Cartoons That Never Made It. This was a series of shorts that were small little cartoons that would play sometimes before commercials, or they would be put in somewhere to break up a longer running show, and the whole point of them were that they were supposed to be these little snippets or promos for cartoons that didn't ever get fleshed out into full shows for very obvious reasons. Frothy Dog is the show that never was, and it is about exactly what you are most likely assuming it is about, which is a dog with rabies. The short features a pretty upbeat tune, so it's not necessarily scary at all, but man, it is pretty disturbing. Some of the lyrics are things like, "You can look, but you shouldn't touch, or else he'll gnaw your arm off," or another part where they explain that Frothy is always smiling because he has lockjaw. At the end of the day, I feel extremely grateful that this one was never made into a full series, because I just don't think anyone really needs a frothy dog in their life. In our number 8 spot today, we have Happy Tree Friends. Happy Tree Friends is absolutely not a show I would ever show to a child for many reasons. The show is an adult cartoon that is disguised like a kid's show. If you just saw the characters, you would have no idea what dark things really...
First of all, let me get into it by saying Happy Tree Friends was one of the greatest shows that Cartoon Network ever fucking released. I'm telling you, I promise you that show was fucking hilarious. No, you should not show that to a small child, but for teenagers, that show is really fucking funny.
Happen because all of the characters are cute little forest animals and the animation is very bright and colorful. But the show is actually pretty horrifying. Each episode shows these cute little forest animals getting into extremely violent and graphic situations. Sometimes it is through accidents and sometimes it is absolutely deliberate, and the violence ranges from smaller injuries and pain to some pretty full-blown gruesome activity. Most of the characters who die in the show do find themselves reincarnated for the next episodes though, so I guess that's a plus. In our number 7 spot today, we have Invader Zim. Invader Zim was a cartoon about an alien named Zim who is from the...
No gur, no dance. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Planet Urk. Zim has a plan to conquer Earth and enslave humans. The show in its entirety is a dark comedy, but it's not overly terrifying. But there is one specific segment from an episode that I want to talk about today. The segment is titled Dark Harvest, and it is the second segment from the 4th episode of the very first season. In this episode, Zim, who is pretending to be a child at a school, which is already just a creepy concept by the way, begins harvesting the organs of other children at school and replacing them with random gadgets. The whole episode is just a lot to handle, but I think the worst part is when he steals one kid's liver and replaces it with an explosive. What kind of children's show is this? Basically, no matter who tries to stop Zim on his organ-stealing spree is unsuccessful and ends up having one less organ, and just the entire episode is presented like a horror movie. I feel like if this was a live-action show instead of a cartoon, it probably would have been rated R. In our number 6 spot today, we have Balloon Land. Balloon Land is an animated short film that comes from 1935, and it, of course, takes place in a town called Balloon Land, whose residents are made out of balloons. Basically, the residents are up against the villainous Pincushion Man, who goes around trying to poke all of the balloon residents with his pins. While this isn't the scariest cartoon on today's list, there is something strangely terrifying about this short. Old animation is both incredible, but also extremely eerie. Around the middle of the film, there is a song that the Pincushion Man walks around singing, and it is so creepy. Between the great voice acting, to the strange way that he moves, and even to the lyrics of the song, I definitely feel like I want to stay away from the Pincushion Man. While I didn't watch this cartoon short as a kid, I feel like if I did, he might have been one of those creepy characters that just sticks with you. In our number 5 spot today, we have Swing You Sinners. Swing You Sinners comes to us from 1930, and it was a part of the Talk Cartoons series. This cartoon is very well known for its dark and surreal and pretty abstract content. This cartoon follows Bimbo as he is out trying to steal chickens. As he's attempting to steal one, he gets caught by the police. Bimbo tries to get away and ends up finding himself locked inside of a cemetery after the door grows a mouth and swallows the lock and key, and this is when things really go awry. He very quickly finds out that the cemetery is haunted, not just by ghosts, but also by monsters. These scary creatures then begin to tell him about how he will be punished for his sins. Despite Bimbo begging for forgiveness, these creatures are unrelenting, which is honestly pretty scary and kind of sad. I wish I could continue on to explain a nice and happy ending to this cartoon, but apparently 1930 was just a very dark time. Bimbo continues to be threatened and chased by the creatures until he eventually falls into hell, and it is there where he gets eaten by a huge skull, and that's just how this cartoon ends. I guess the moral of the story is don't steal chickens and stay the heck away from the 1930s. In our number 4 spot today, we have Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids was originally a series of books that ended up being turned into an animated series. The series ended up becoming extremely popular because of the fact that it was enjoyed by both adults and children, and people enjoyed how freaky it was mixed with the show's dark humor. There's a specific episode that I want to talk about today though, and that is the episode of The Barber of Seville. This is the 9th episode of this series, and it focuses around Tanya and Peregrine, who are the rudest children ever. Both of these children end up getting in trouble at school one day, and they get sent to the headmaster's office. In the office, they end up being so cheeky that they make the headmaster faint. The following day, there is a new barber in town who is offering free haircuts for all the children. I'm sure this is a great business technique, but it's also pretty creepy if we're being honest. This new barber sees how terrible these two specific children are being, and he invites them for their free haircuts. When the pair gets to the shop, they see a big glass jar that looks like it's full of slugs. Peregrine pretends to eat one of these slugs, but the barber walks in and surprises him, which causes him to accidentally swallow the slug. At the same time, the glass jar falls and smashes, and that is when we hear a bunch of cheeky whispers. This is when it is revealed that the barber is not actually a barber at all, but he teaches rude children how to behave better, and that jar of slugs was actually the tongues of foul-mouthed children. The next day, Tanya and Peregrine return to school as completely different children, and that barber was never seen again. I guess this has a good moral to not be mean, but I also feel like there's a good lesson to not go to a barber that is offering free haircuts to children and only children. I'm not really sure. In our number 3 spot today, we have Ghostly Thrillers. Ghostly Thrillers is a creepy little animated movie that features 2 stories. One being The Youth Who Wanted to Shiver, which is about a boy who isn't afraid of anything, so he sets out on an adventure to learn how to shiver in fear. But it's the other part of the film called Ghost in the Shed that I really want to talk about today. Ghost in the Shed starts off with a traveling salesman who unfortunately knocks on the wrong door one day. He knocks on a farmer's door just before dusk and asks if he can spend the night. The farmer and his sons are more than happy to have him stay because they just actually end up killing and robbing him before the sun comes up the next day. After this, they buried his body under the shed in the backyard, and no one ever suspected a thing. Flash forward quite a few years, and the area has now become more populated, and a new family lives in this house now. This new family obviously doesn't know about the body buried in the back, and they're actually good people and not killers. The salesman spirit, of course, has been lingering around, and he won't move on to the other side until he gets someone to find his body so that people can know what happened to him. Basically, the rest of the film is just the salesman haunting this family until they finally dig up the backyard and find his skeleton. And honestly, this whole concept is just not something I would have assumed would be for children. I feel like there are real adult horror movies with the same plot, so this might be one to just skip over for the kids. In our number 2 spot today, we have Feline Follies. Feline Follies was created in 1919 and was the first time we ever got to see the character of Felix the cat. This cartoon shows Felix, who is called Master Tom at this point, meeting a female white cat. Felix serenades her and they fall in lust with each other, and Felix says that he will devote all 9 of his lives to her. He even sings so loudly he wakes up an entire neighborhood. While this is all going on, a group of mice have broken into Felix's home and basically trashed it. When Felix's owner comes home and sees the mess,
I just started delivering for DoorDash, and I absolutely love it. I was looking for extra ways to make some cash, and I decided to give it a try. I never imagined how easy and fun it would be. I can make money on my time.
blames Felix and ends up throwing him out of the house. This is when Felix decides that he will go and live with his new lady cat friend. To Felix's surprise, he now realizes that he is the father to an entire litter of kittens. At this point, you might be asking yourself how this cartoon is dark and how it could have possibly made it this high on the list. Well, it is how this one ends that really gets you. Felix obviously wasn't ready for the consequence of his actions, because once he sees all of these little kitten children, his reaction is to run away. He runs towards the local gas house, where he lays down and sticks a hose in his mouth and turns it on. So he just ends up taking his own life by intentionally inhaling coal gas. Definitely not how I thought this one was going to turn out, and what a questionable storyline for a children's cartoon overall. In our number one spot today, you guys wanted to see this one. We have Courage the Cowardly Dog. I feel like this one is the most widely feared children's cartoon. Courage the Cowardly Dog is an absolutely iconic cartoon that I can vividly remember absolutely terrifying me as a child. The show is basically just about Courage, who is a dog with human-like characteristics, and his elderly owners. The three all live in the middle of nowhere. In each episode, they are thrown into different, insane, bizarre, and usually disturbing situations that they have to get out of. The show is known for its extremely eerie and creepy atmosphere, and just the entire energy that the show gives off. Contrary to the name, Courage is a dog who is very easily frightened. He was abandoned when he was a puppy after his parents were sent into outer space, and this is when the very friendly Muriel found him and took him in. Muriel is married to the grumpy, mean, and greedy Eustace, who's often quite rude to Courage. Despite being terrified, Courage always finds a way to face his fears in order to protect his owners, and I think that is something that we can all appreciate. All in all, Courage the Cowardly Dog is a fantastic cartoon, but it is most definitely also extremely surreal and pretty unbelievable at times. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. If you have any more dark, creepy cartoons, maybe we'll do a part 3, so let me know in the comments. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Alright, we are...
Alright guys, if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you get notified the next time we drop a new video. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.